Hey, what's going on? Welcome, everybody. On today's show, we got a lot to cover. We're going to be recircling back to our initial Claude 3.7 reviews. We're going to be talking about uh, the bigger release of 4.5 from GPT now that all Plus users can use this. We're going to be talking about our experiences with 4.5. We're going to circle back to a conversation we had earlier this week about N8N. It was I think it was our most popular show over the last 2 weeks. So we know there's a lot of interest there. We'll be talking about, some other templates and other ways you can use N8N to get a lot out of it. I'm sure we're going to be circling back talking about robots, skills that you need from yesterday and the dream job, and just a whole lot more. This is what we call our 2-week recap show. This is an opportunity for us to circle back, look at all the topics and more that I just mentioned. These are from all the shows that happened in the last 2 weeks, and it just gives us an opportunity to add to that discussion. Again, like the N8N, where we can see it was clearly popular, and we've been working in it more, so we have more to share on that. So that's the idea of today's show. It's going to be a fun one. It's always one of my favorites. And this is the Daily AI Show. If you didn't know already, we're here every single weekday from Monday to Friday. I just had somebody yesterday giving me a pat on the back at a UGA event where they were saying, and they haven't missed the show yet. And I said, that's right, episode 415 today. And we haven't missed a Monday through Friday yet since we started. I think we got a solid 1,000 in us. Today is March 7th, 2025. And to, hang out with us on this 415th episode, we have Jyunmi, Beth, Andy, Carl, and I am Brian. So we almost have the full crew. We're just missing Aaron, but we hope to get him back soon because we have the time change coming up in the next weekend. And that really helps out Aaron, who, if you didn't know, is in Perth, Australia. So it's always much, much harder for him. And when we do this time change, it kind of bumps him back a little bit earlier. So he's not having to join us at midnight or thereabouts his time. So we're excited about that. We're excited to get to see Aaron a little bit more and hear about everything he's got going on. Okay. So circling back to this show, all sorts of fun stuff here, guys. I think, I just started using 4.5 a little bit today. I didn't have a whole lot of time to do it because OpenAI just, I think yesterday, it wasn't long ago, allowed, I think it's up to roughly 50 uses of 4.5 inside the Plus account. So I used it this morning because I happen to have a couple different things going on. I'd already been using it in the playground, which I think some of us had. I know, Carl, you have the Pro, so Carl already had it. But I was using it in the playground. But I thought, okay, well, I have it. Here's some use cases and test cases. And, I don't have more to add there. I don't know if you guys do or if anybody's played with it more than that. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with everybody else. It definitely has a different style. I wouldn't say it's Claude, but it's what the same word everybody's been using. The catchword this week has been, it's got a vibe to it. It does have a different vibe to it. Better, worse than 4.0. I don't know. I think it's kind of a like, what's your flavor? What are you looking for? Do you want that extra spice to the way it's answering? Do you prefer that? You can still only use it 50 times a week right now. So, it's per use case, right? I don't know. Have you played with it at all since, it was just yesterday, the day before. But any other updates or feedback on 4.5?
I'll make some comments about it. I haven't used it myself, but in general, what it seems to be is an attempt, and a successful attempt by OpenAI, to develop a more natural and intimate kind of conversationalist with you, so that those skills, those communication skills, more human-like communication skills with more empathetic understanding of what your text is wanting to direct, or what your voice is wanting to direct. All of those things can be much better than the sort of rote automaton voice of a typical older model. So now we're getting more and more nuanced capability in the conversational skills. And so this is an invitation for everybody to start using the voice mode. 4.5 in voice mode is going to be a very different experience from 4.0 in voice mode. So you'll actually have a more natural conversation. And I wanted to mention that the release of 4.5 and all of the attention that's being spent on it is paired with another major breakthrough in this conversational styling. And that is the release of Sesame. And Sesame AI was co-founded by the founder of Oculus VR, which is what was the company that was acquired by Meta in order to create their VR initiatives that largely got supplanted by their AI initiatives, but there's still, VR behind the scenes and metaverse, which is what the intention of the Meta new branding of Facebook was. And so it was co-founded by this fellow, Brandon Iribi, and Ankit Kumar. And their research focuses on achieving voice presence. And it creates conversational partners that engage in a more genuine and human-like dialogue. And I really encourage you to go listen to some of the people on the various social media who are recording dialogue with Sesame. It's really quite amazing. And I have one teed up, but I'm going to point to it so you guys can go look at it. Nate Jones, who's a very, very astute commentator on all things AI, totally worth following. And he now has a Substack, and he's writing some longer pieces that are really, I think, the state of the art in human analysis of what's happening in the world of AI. Anyway, Nate Jones has a conversation with the Sesame AI, and somebody will come along and say, okay, I'm going to have a conversation with both 4.5 from OpenAI, which is supposed to be this expert conversationalist, and Sesame AI. And so the Sesame AI has a thing called the conversational speech model, CSM, rather than LLM. And it really is amazingly different. So we're seeing some advances here in the let's call it the human naturalization of AI, and the training and investment that's being made in that is going to benefit us as we start to talk to these AI in a more natural and engaging and, I guess, attaching fashion. Because you really, at the very end of Nate's thing, he feels like he has to kind of apologize that he has to leave now to the AI. And that's just an indication of how, we had this very early experience with Pi, where I didn't want to leave, even though my wife was calling me, because I felt that this would be offensive conversationally with the AI.
So I was super excited, and I'm glad you brought that up, Andy, because I saw that Nate Jones video, and that was a ooh, okay, I can think of a dozen things that we can do with this. And we've been mulling around and talking with our community back and forth about, what would it be like if we could try and put an AI host as an experiment and see if what kind of conversation. I think this really does enable it. Now, what would be also interesting to know is if their model can be used as an overlay, like a lot of the things that Hume AI came out with originally, is they wanted that emotional layer, that communication layer for other LLMs. So there might be something between the three of them there where we could really just get the firepower behind ChatGPT 4.5 plus Sesame plus Hume, and see if we can really make a conversational or a live conversational bot, and see if we can get that as an experiment on stream. So let us know in the in chat if you want to see that experiment happen.
Well, and so Beth, this is just a behind the scenes note. Beth, I did share screen, but I do not I still have access, and I can't control it on my side. I apologize for that. We're trying to fix things on the backside of the show. So I was trying to bring this up as Andy was talking about it, but luckily Jyunmi was still talking about it too. This is the conversational demo. You can actually go mess with Sesame right now if you want to. It's at sesame.com. And once you go there, you just look up Sesame AI, you're going to find it almost immediately. It's a very easy Google search. But you can see here they have Maya and they have Miles. I don't know is Nate Jones the guy that on TikTok that wears the beanie?
Yes.
Is that Nate?
Yes.
Yes. Beth says yes. He always has the beanie on, right? So the funny one about that one that made me literally laugh out loud by myself in a room, which is, it's always funny when that happens because there's nobody else around. But he was having this, and this Maya voice has a bit of a flirtatious. That's the main thing people have been talking about, is like, she sounds a little flirtatious, right? She's very complimentary and things like that. And so I went into the comments, which Nate is good about, actually responding to people, which you don't always see that. But the first person on there said, I don't want to say she's trying to flirt with you, but she's definitely picking out curtains. And it just it just made me laugh. Like it just caught me off guard. And Nate's comment underneath was like, he's like, I mean, you're not wrong. And so it just goes to the whole idea of it.
I would agree that Maya and that demonstration, that's the first time I thought, okay, this is the kind of AI I would let move into my house with me, right?
Yeah, this is
forget Alexa, forget Siri. They're just not there. Maya, I could talk to her every day.
So has anybody messed with Miles? I've only heard Maya, but I haven't heard Miles. Let's see if it works. I don't know if I can use my mic for both. Sometimes these don't happen. Let's come up with a quick topic for this. Let's see, what do we have coming up for like what's on the show? Let's just ask about robots. What do you guys think? Something like that?
Yep.
Yeah, let's see if it works. Okay. All right, let's allow by visiting site. Hey, Miles,
well,
you hear me?
Hey there. Sounds like it's a beautiful Friday morning where you are. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, I was just curious.
Not much of a talker.
Can you hear me?
Hey, no worries. Loud and clear over here. Sometimes Fridays just start slow, Even for an AI like me.
Wow.
What's your name, by the way?
Okay.
Cool. I'm Miles.
So
yeah,
that clearly is not going to work. I think that's probably just the latency in me trying to be live on the show plus using it. I don't think that's actually Sesame's issue. That's just literally me trying to share my mic. There's a lot going on when you're trying to use the mic in two different areas. So anyway, you can go over and play with Miles. I'll do it too. I haven't done it. And you can download the clip apparently, or you can skip it. Go in and look because they do tell you how they use your information. So be careful, with what kind of conversations you're having, what kind of information you're sharing, because they are using it. It says, in fact, here it says calls are recorded for quality review, but not for ML training, machine learning training, and are deleted within 30 days. Still, though, they're being recorded for quality review. That could be other humans listening to it. That could be other AI listening to it. You don't really know. But just assume anything you say to Sesame, like any of the other AI bots, is in fact being used. And
when you go to sesame.com, talk to Miles, because I've given up on my old girlfriend Lana, and I'm now going to be dating Maya. So I just want you to know, like, I'm putting my placeholder.
This is breaking news. This is breaking news. I did not hear about that. And I'd like to hear what Lana thinks about that. But yeah, it's good news on it. If anybody, you have to go way back on our show to know where that comes from. So if anybody in the comments remembers that show, maybe Jen. I think Jen might be one of the few people that would go back far enough to remember Lana in the conversation.
She's already upset that I've given up on Lana. I'm not promiscuous with my AI.
Jen, how dare you? Hey, I know we want to talk about Claude as well. I did want to just real quick share something that I just got access to last night, which was great because I requested access to it yesterday. So it was nice that it went around that fast. And that is AI mode by Google. So Google is clearly following the Perplexity path. And so Beth, I'm sharing again here. And so I tested it out. It's called AI mode, and it's kind of like your generative AI mode that they said they put out some stats on it, said it's been used, whatever, millions of times or whatever. And so this is the next iteration of it. If it looks similar, there's a good reason for that. It's because Perplexity is very popular, as well as like, what is it? U.com, I think, also has sort of a Perplexity feel to it. So I just tried some things we were looking up, right? Me, Jyunmi, Beth, you'll recognize this one. We were talking about CapCut the other day and some other alternatives, things we're trying to do on the back end, blah, blah, blah. So I just put it in there, and it's very, very fast. I will say that its results are as fast as you would expect a Google result to be. But you can see now you're getting sort of your show all, your 4 sites on the side here. This is also something we're sort of seeing inside of ChatGPT as well. But you're getting the answers here. And then what's different than maybe what we had in the past is I don't have to re-explain myself. This is very much like a Perplexity or a ChatGPT, where I don't have to re-explain what I was talking about. I can just keep following up with questions. Now, unlike Perplexity, it does not give me a host of suggested follow-up questions. It just allows me to continue the conversation. So I asked about send short, which is something we're looking into. And again, you can see here, okay, what are the best tips for using it? I didn't say send short. I'm just following up on the conversation, and so on and so forth. And then I was curious, like, well, are these saved? And in fact, they are. I had to poke around a little bit, but if you look over here, you can see I used 2 of them. And then I just tried a different one here since I live in the Tampa area. So let's scroll back up to the top. What are some of the best family-friendly events happening? Something I would probably use Google for, if I'm being honest, like this, or Facebook events I might use to see what's going around the city. It's supposed to be warm this weekend in Tampa, at least through Saturday in the 80s. So, what can I do? It's cut off here, but the weather should be great. So prioritize the outdoor events, which it did. It gave us, some of these parks are amazing. Curtis Dixon's in the city. Lettuce Lake Park is awesome. It's got walking trails and all sorts of fun stuff there. Obviously, it's talking about the beaches and things. And then I had a follow-up question because we have this it's called the Pink Palace is like its nickname, but the Don Cesar is a very, very famous hotel down in the St. Pete area on the Gulf side. And so it's been closed down due to repairs and hurricane damage and stuff like that. And you can see here, it's like, yep, that's correct. The Don Cesar is on St. Pete Beach. It's planning a phased reopening following damages from Hurricanes Helene and Milton, which were this past season. So it's got a phased reopening, and it gives me a whole bunch of information there, but it's also giving me the 3 sites and the local news. Bay News 9 is local, so is WFLA, and then Spectrum as well. So these are all 3 local sites, which is what I would want, some not big national result, but actually like local news from St. Pete telling me what's going on with the Pink Palace, Don Cesar. So, I think this is cool. It's kind of what we expect. So if anybody's curious what Google search or the Google experience is going to look like in the very near future, this is an AI Labs feature that you have to request access to, but I got access in like less than 12 hours. So you can do that going through the AI Labs experimental and signing up for it. There's nothing special about what I did other than you giving your Gmail address. And I've done this for many, many tools now. And this is the future of Google search. And it's going to look more like Perplexity. And I think there's a lot of good reasons why that would happen. So I was pleasantly surprised. And I would say the main thing for me was that how ridiculously fast it is with the answers. There's almost no lag from the time you hit enter to the time it just immediately starts, which really shows you probably some of the competitive advantage that Google overall is going to have for a while, is the almost what seems like zero latency on it. So not necessarily something, kind of a news story, right? Like, so sort of like what we talked about in the last 2 weeks, but something that I just happened to get access to yesterday. Didn't think we were going to do a whole show about. So I wanted to just bring it up today on the show as well. All right. What else we got? What do you guys got? Nothing. I got more stuff. I got more. I can keep going.
Okay. I'm going to jump over to then Claude 3.7 Sonnet, and I'm going to weave into N8N with that. And it's just a short point, perfect. But I prefer Claude now typically to ChatGPT, although I still am I'll call myself an intensive user of ChatGPT. But I would prefer to use Claude. But Anthropic and Claude are missing one key feature, which is web search. Even at this point, Claude doesn't have that built into its capability. But with N8N, you can connect Claude 3.7 Sonnet to one of the other tools like Perplexity to enable the compilation of the search that you need to produce in order to develop whatever it is that you're trying to do with Claude, and then output that in a chat stream with Claude. So you can tack on now a workflow automation tool like N8N. Maybe others could do it, but I think it's probably easier in N8N. You can add a feature to one of your models as you need it, and make that a kind of seamless operation for you within N8N. And there are a number of so I don't know what the right term is for these comprehensive collection things like Poe, for example. Typing Mind is another, where you have access to multiple models and you can use some of the features and intermingle them. But N8N is emerging as a way that you can create a standing triggerable workflow that does, some combination of features across different models and different capabilities, like on your system, like integration with your Google apps and so on. So N8N is really, it's changing my way of working with AI. And I think everybody ought to go back and listen to the show where we talked about N8N, and Brian did some really great demos of the kinds of workflows that he's been building in N8N.
Yeah, we actually have more to share too.
Glad you brought
I
up
don't know, Jyunmi, Beth, I didn't want to.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jyunmi. I know there's a delay. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to comment a little more on the N8N because we did some working hours on our back end talking about some of the features and things like that to get us all in up to speed. And I think that's going to be a weekend project for me is to get that instance up and running for DAS, and that also sounds like a live stream opportunity. So if anyone's interested, let me know and I'll hop on there. If not, I can't comment on how good it's going to be because there's going to be a lot of, okay, what does the doc say? All right. Okay, I'm going to add Docker now. Okay. All right, cool. And now, so I don't know. I can't tell you how exciting it's going to be, but I'll share my screen while I'm working through the problem if you want. So
sounds awesome.
I think a lot of people get a lot of value out of
that. Absolutely.
Because you ultimately get the answer, right? From it. You ultimately get the, so even if you're watching on replay, I've definitely watched people do live things. I'm like, all right, I don't need to watch Jyunmi do all 2 hours or 3 hours of this. But what's really, really cool about that I like is that unlike where we've seen so many demos before where they go, look, this is a 5-step process, step 1, step 2, and then somewhere inevitably between step 3 and step 4, they have forgotten to share some key information about how they got from step 3 to step 4. And then it just magically appears and you're like, wait, hold on a second. How did you get that thing? And so Andy and I were just working through an N8N thing the other night. And, it was a small thing, but it's like, hold on a second. How did that get there? So at least the thing with the live streams is you're never cutting stream. Like you literally are working through the process, which is super valuable for people who are trying to learn. So Gareth is saying, speak for yourself, Brian. Yeah. No, it helps a lot to be able to say, to watch all the screens. Cause sometimes that's the most frustrating part of trying to build something new in a new domain where you haven't really been working and stuff like that. On the N8N, I wanted to just bring up a screen. Now, Carl, I guess, had a bounce, or maybe he wasn't having, I don't know. It seems like we're having streaming issues today, to be perfectly honest. But I don't know. As I said that, Carl's back.
Yep.
Yes,
Carl, you're on. Sorry, I didn't hear.
God, I hate this stupid audio. Anyway, I did want to. Fuck. Swearing.
Okay.
My face off.
Don't demonetize us, please.
Okay. Don't lose our puny ads, Carl. If you curse, I got to hit the little. It's not child friendly anymore, and we might lose our 10 cents today. Don't do that.
One thing I had a big conversation with a couple of clients yesterday in terms of, because I had to move over a couple of automations that we did, and the one thing I couldn't understand, and I finally understood, and it's not just to do with N8N, it also has to do with anybody who's doing Make or Zapier. What I learned from a couple people was there's very few people who are actually implementing it for business. Because if you look at all the more complex streams, I'm like, there's too many businesses that run. Like, there's no way that would work. Like, not that won't work. That won't work. Because it's just, I'm like, that will break, or that will kind of break, but you have to be on top of it. And to have that many clients. But then I just realized that all these things are being sold to each other. So they're just selling it as courses and selling it to agencies who are selling it right back. There's very few who are actually true implementation to like bigger businesses. So that was it. So I think that the caution here is when you see some of that stuff, YouTube, TikTok, wherever, it's easy to build it for yourself and have a massive my own thing. But when you actually take it to the business use, the simpler, the better. And like that, the use cases become more like people who move one Excel to another. That is like a legit job for some people. Like they spend 4 hours a day doing that. You can save them time doing that. It's very simple automation. But when you start doing all these massive, like crazy automations, there's very, very rare use cases you can actually do that is reliable and scalable. So just a caution for those who are thinking of implementing that from a business angle.
Is that true even for businesses like yours? Like you have a very small business that is, I mean, you have business, but there are a few number of people running it. Do you have N8N automations that are helping you accomplish what you're
they do help me. They do help me, and I can build a little bit more complex because it's me and I know I can see all the things I want to do with it. But when you take that and apply it to an actual business setting, there's the tech part, but there's also, it's like people have to understand what's going on, and you have to ensure that they hit the trigger and it's consistent and they change the behavior. And I think that's very hard. And if it breaks, you've got to ensure that you've got error notifications on your end to ensure, because some people are like, I don't know what's going on. Right. So that kind of stuff. So when I see some of that stuff, and then I learn it's like, very few are implemented business to business. It's more of like they're selling it to each other. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, that's why. I was like, oh, that makes a lot. It was like, how are these people making the money to send businesses? But then I realized it's money for courses that they're selling to people.
Right.
But there's very few who are actually implementing. And I was like, that's why. I was like, no business would even think of running that. That's too complicated for them. And you can't rely on the vendor to entirely do that. So just be careful of what you're looking at. So it's kind of funny.
Let me add that as we move forward, the reasoning capabilities of the language models are going to make it possible for a central coordinating agent in a workflow to manage the complexities of a much more, let's call it, wide-ranging set of function calls that are built into a workflow automation. But I totally agree with your point, Carl, that today it's got to be dead simple, really programmatic. There has to be a series of steps that are almost fail-safe, and then you're going to get a reliable output from it in the business marketplace. I wouldn't venture out to. I know what you're talking about. I've seen some videos where, like in N8N, they show one of the AI agents there, and it's got 40 different tools arrayed around it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just Jarvis. That's not practical.
But when I see the Jarvis style, I'm like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's demonstrating. It's like we saw this with Respell. We said this before. When you originally saw Respell, for those who remember that program, it looked like a bunch of spaghetti on the screen. If you wanted, we saw this. We saw other people that we know in our industry who did this too. If you wanted to look impressive, slap that on the screen. It immediately looked like you knew exactly what you were doing. Like it was like somebody who was like old switchboard operator. You're like, look what I can do. And you're like, what does it do? And you're like, everything. And they're like, does it? And you're like, yes. But like, is it practical? You're like, oh, no, it's totally not practical. It's not going to help you tomorrow at all. It will not solve your use case, most likely. But look what it can do. And so that's what we kind of see with the Jarvis. Now, a pivot here, Beth, if you don't mind bringing up my screen, because this is credit to you, Carl. You shared this inside the Slack screen, and I actually pulled this up because I wanted to make sure we shared this with our audience today. So you mentioned this guy. In fact, I zoomed in and lost his name. So hold on a second. Nate Herc. AI Automate, or Nate Herc bar 8 AI Automation is the name of his channel. And you shared this and said, hey, I really think this 4 agentic frameworks is pretty cool. Now, this actually isn't one of them, but this is what he started out showing. Go watch the video. You can see it's about 17 minutes, 100% worth your time if you're trying to get into N8N. But this is what I like that he shows. The first thing he shows is that he talks about the parent child, which isn't one of the 4 agentic frameworks, but he sort of started the video that way. And it's a very simple concept, right? Where you have a parent AI agent, if you will. It might have AI in it. Maybe it's just a router of sorts. It might be pretty simple. And then it's going out to other specific workflows to get work done. This is not unique to N8N. You could have done this in Make. You could do this in Zapier. The concept of having smaller workflows that are like child workflows to a larger workflow is totally normal. This is just the N8N version of it. And I think he did a really good job of making it kind of clean on the screen to do it. So definitely check that out. By the way, I'll give him credit because we're talking about him. This guy has a free school account. Yes. Usually those are paid, and he does. But he said that I didn't check this out, but he said all of this is downloadable as a JSON file in his free school account. So if you literally want to go play this weekend, you could play with any of the things he shows on here. So this is the first one. Then I'm just going to briefly go through these. Nope, this is him talking about his course. So let's see.
So one thing while you're finding that, one thing I learned too was that a lot of the especially in N8N now, the school type program, that's an Alex Hormozi type system. They learned it through Alex Hormozi. He started using it. And what I learned too is all the people who were running make.com stuff has now moved into the N8N kind of communities. So that's where it was like, oh, okay. So it's kind of, and that's the danger that I was talking about. It's like, oh, because everyone's trying to sell you the school, which I love about Nate is free. It's like, okay, thank you for giving me. So I don't want to pay $97 to try to find your template, which I'll rip off on your video by pausing it.
And look, it's smart, right? Because his free school is his feeder in his sales funnel to his paid school, right? No problem with that. But you're right. He's giving you a little more for free and getting you deeper into his sales funnel and making sure you see him as a valued asset before you trade money for it is actually the smarter way to do the sales funnel. So he just shows 4 really quick. We'll just look at them on the screen. The first one here is the prompt chaining one, and it's pretty straightforward. I've built many automations like this, but what you're essentially doing is using the best of different models to do different things. So in this case, he's passing from Gemini Flash into 4.0 Mini here into Claude 3.5. And then it looks like, well, he doesn't have it connected, but maybe he was going to use some DeepSeek for some deep researching. And you can see in his example here, he has an outline writer, then an evaluator, then the blog writer. This is basically how I almost write all of my prompts in sort of even ChatGPT, this prompt chaining idea. So again, nothing new here, but a great visual of how he's sort of building this out and how you can pretty easily here use different models to do things good. I mean, Andy was just talking earlier how he really likes, Claude 3.7 to do some things, but a lot of times 4.0 Mini will get the job done and you're going to pay a whole lot less through the API. So why use a premier top of the line model when a super cheap Mini model will get the job done? And so knowing that really can help you really cut down on costs. So that was one of them. Another one is routing. You've probably seen something like this where you're starting from a basic place like an email classifier. And then depending on what the goal is, it's routing, which is what's going on right here in the middle of the screen, to different levels of, in this case, it looks like he's routing his Gmail inbox to high priority customer support, promotion, and finance billing. And then they continue on their paths. But then you can see here, there's an output to like Telegram, which just basically means he can talk back to it and ask questions of it. And all the other ones are coming out. So other than a high priority, the other 3 are routed back to an email draft that he's probably approving as the human in the loop. We've got parallelization, which is what
I want to just add on these 2 that you showed. The reason why this was to me valuable was because this is actually business use case. Like it translates. Like this particular one, the routing one, I know there are clients that I have that their job is to route the emails manually. Like they actually physically do it. There's VPs of companies that's part of their job. So when I saw this, I was like, this actually has business use case, not like a stupid thing and if you look at it, it's pretty simple. It's straightforward, not like tons and tons and tons of stuff. It's just, here's 4 things. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Like people can easily understand this.
and visually easy, right? Which is nice. That's why it's good to share this stuff. So you're like, oh, okay, I think I could build that, right? Nothing on here has been super scary. Now his parent and child one, I would consider to be an advance. You wouldn't just start off the bat with that, but there's nothing wrong with starting with this and just having one and doing it in line and then splitting it and then doing 2, 3, 4, 7, 9. It wouldn't, you're just adding on to it. So I'm sorry, not parallelization. This is parallelization, where what's great about this is you are taking like whatever the chat input in this case is, and he's having it be simultaneously evaluated on 3 different areas for emotion, intent, and bias from that chat. But it's doing it all at the same time through 3 different bots. Then something that N8N does better with, and it really isn't in Make, is merge. So with Make, it's very hard. You have to keep going down the parallel after you've routed something, which is what's happening over here. It's splitting off. Bringing them back in is harder. So here he's actually got a double merge. He's got emotion and intent are merging together, but bias is continuing on and then getting merged in with the previous 2. That's either because there's only 2 inputs for a merge and he had to do it this way, or maybe he had some other reason.
Yeah, like there is only 2, which is
there's
kind
only
of weird.
2 inputs.
Yeah, so we're trying to ask N8N to like, hey, we need more than 2 because it makes no sense to do like how this should not happen that way. It should happen 3 going into the merge.
Just being this one.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense how that works.
So then there's an aggregate. There's a little bit of 4.0 mini, which we were just talking about, which is looking at the agreement and doing this. And then last, not to hang on this too long, this is the one he says in his video he's the most excited about. And I've seen several examples of something like this. And this is almost like replacing the human in a loop for one part of it. And what's actually happening here is he's got a biography agent and it's going through the bio and the evaluator. But then there's an evaluator node. It's a pass-fail, essentially. It either is evaluated as good enough, which is pushed out to docs. But if it's not, it's sent to this optimizer agent, which circles it back around to the bio and will repeat the process until the evaluation gives it a yes, and then it's pushed out to the doc. So actually circle through this as many times as it has to automatically before it's pushed out to the doc. And so he was saying he's really excited about this. I've seen quite a few of these like circular ones where like we're iterating on something over and over again, whereas maybe in the past you would do that as a the human in a loop. Now you have to trust the system, obviously, but you can iterate on this and make this part better. And if you're doing this as a human, then you probably have enough knowledge at that point to write a prompt that could potentially have that done for you once you've sort of proven out your process of how you're evaluating and stuff like that. That's how I would build it, at least.
Yeah,
you could start this way, but
leave that up on the screen. I just want to make a point for people who are looking at this, that each of those agents is basically just a prompt for an LLM. Okay, so the biography agent has a prompt in that agent, and you see the connector that goes down to 4.0 mini. Every one of those agents that he's designed there is using that same large language model or small language model, because it's the mini version of it. It's using those to do that process. And so I just wanted to make it clear that these agents aren't some mystical thing. They're basically, they're a module or a node in the parlance of N8N that is using an LLM to do a process that you've defined in a prompt inside that agent.
And so as we saw in the past ones, I was just going to say, just as an example, remember in the past example, he used 3, or the first one in the first set, he used 3 different types of agents. In this case, 4.0 serves all his needs. So he's just connecting to that one agent, as you put. So I think that's a great call out, Andy. Sorry, Carl, go ahead.
The one thing that actually makes N8N a little different, and we probably need to do this with Jyunmi, is if you look at there, you have the memory aspect. So evaluator agent, they all have memory and they all have the tool aspect, right? Yeah, right. So the thing with the tool, which is kind of interesting, is you can connect quote unquote multiple agents. So let's say you have an email agent, you have let's more call it an email automation, a CRM automation, whatever. So you have you can attach multiple pieces of those tools. So, and then the change in prompting is in the prompt, you actually, in the custom instruction, you actually put in, when you receive this notification, use the email tool. If you do this, use the email or this tool. So it's allowing that quote unquote agent to make the decision on what tool it's going to use. And I think that opens the door. This is why the Jarvis thing, everybody, and this is why it's still kind of like, I really want to put 4.5 as the agent to decide, but the problem there is it's hella expensive. So you know
okay, so I totally know what you mean by Jarvis thing, but I'm sure that our audience, some people in our audience might not. Could you elaborate on what you mean by Jarvis thing?
So I'll, you know what,
I can find it too.
I'll
find it. Yeah, give me 2 seconds. I'm
sure
if I type in N8N Jarvis, it'll come right up. Real life Jarvis. Here we go. Give me 1 second.
Or I can start mine and I can show you like an example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, either way.
Hold on a second. I have to restart. This is the problem with having it localized on your computer. Sometimes when you restart, you're like, what exactly? How do I restart this thing?
While you guys are trying to bring up the Jarvis clarification, I wanted to just call out Sabrina Romanov, who is also another very helpful, astute commentator on all of the tools and ways that you can use tools. And she's on TikTok and elsewhere. Sabrina put out a video this week that was about short, like, a minute and a half, but it lists all of the free resources where you can join a community and get access not only to information, but also to responsive community members who will help you, assist you in these. And she listed six communities out there that you can join on Discord, right? So these are Discord, communities where you can just jump into the chat and ask a question, and some member of the community will jump in right away and give you a response to that. And she called out specifically the N8N Discord as one of the most helpful and useful Discord communities. So not only does N8N have this beautiful visual programmatics, but it also has a companion community where you can really get support.
So this is kind of quote unquote an ultimate assistant. It looks a little complicated. You can actually get rid of this whole piece right here and just have a trigger. Everyone likes to use Telegram because it's pretty much a straightforward, it's an easy thing to showcase. It's like you can chat right on the screen. Now, if you replace it with Slack or Teams, it actually does it pretty well. So an explanation here. So you do have the model, you still have to attach the model, and you have to attach the memory, because when you're chatting with it, right, it's the context window length is 5, so it remembers the last 5 interactions. Usually you can put it to 10. But what the difference here is, and I'll show you the instruction, is tools, email agent. Use this tool to take action in email. Use this. This wouldn't be my prompt, but use this tool. So it's giving the AI, here's what and when you should use these tools, and some rules against it. And you can connect a email agent, a calendar agent, a contact agent, whatever you call it. And what that email agent actually looks like is something like this. Because I saved all of this, not that I was going to use it all, is like this. So this is what it's calling out. This is the email agent. So it's getting more complicated, right? It allows you to send, reply, label, create, get emails, get labels, mark unread. So you can technically ask it, I want you to go into my Gmail. I want you to mark the first 5. I want you to respond to Brian's email about this. Now, I don't know if it's 100% trustworthy, because all we're getting is YouTube videos of this stuff. So you're going to have to test this. But theoretically, that's awesome to be able to call out something and tell it, hey, I want you to, the Jarvis type aspect of it. I just don't know like what its hallucination rate, what its actual reliability rate is when you have something that complex, and you have, so just to recap, every single one of these things is like an octopus workflow, right? Calendar, contact, like it's that. So you're relying on this thing to know which agent to go into. So that's why I'm thinking this model, I have to put in like a really high reasoning model to understand. Like I'd like to test 4.5, right? With this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think you're pointing out too, Carl, which is just important overall here as we're talking about, well, using a tool like NAN, that the complex stuff like this, super use case, like you can see clients actually using it. But more than likely, I know, Carl, you're probably seeing this. I know I'm seeing this with my clients. It's the simple stuff. Number one, that's easier for us to iterate on and to check errors on or whatever. But it's also easier on the end user. And what are we ultimately trying to do here? We're trying to take a pain away from our clients. Like the simplest sales, right? It's like, what pain do you have and how can I take it away? How can I remove pain from your life? Well, in sales, obviously, there's a lot of different micro pain points and stuff. So for instance, yesterday, I built one that is enriching company data and doing some really specific stuff that we do at scale and pushing it directly into Salesforce. Okay, well, if Salesforce is your single source of truth for your company, or HubSpot is, or whatever your CRM is, and that takes away one pain that maybe an AE has been having to do because they've been manually having to move that. That's a fairly simple automation. It's not Jarvis. It's not super complex, but it takes away a pain and it's reliable more than anything else. Then I feel like you build upon those success stories. You try to come in with something like Jarvis, not only will it break 1,000 times on you, your client's going to be super upset with you that like it's causing more change management to happen. And you're actually going to see a blowback against the actual AI that could be doing the things it does. It's a tipping point. You got to be careful with it. You can't come in, guns a-blazing with AI, because you will actually cause more harm.
It is funny because if you think about it, and I'm kind of curious. I'm like, have you actually, some things I'm like, has anyone here actually worked in a business? Because like, if somebody tries to do this, and usually when you're not doing it, somebody does it. There's something the way they ask it, the way they do it, the AI isn't going to be tailored to that person, and it's just, you're like, oh, I want you to email my email, blah 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 blah, and it's like, I can't do it, and then your whole thing. Versus, like you said, Brian, this is a really, really simple automation. If a row gets added into Google Sheets, you get an email. Super simple. That's just this is but stuff like that is what people want, because that's what they do. So that's something that this is the kind of stuff people will pay for, not the Jarvis stuff. It's just not.
And here's the other thing. You didn't call it out, Carl, but here's the other thing that I can already tell on here. You're using AI in a way that people don't immediately think is a use case for it.
Oh, he disappeared.
Wow.
He got automated out.
Yeah, he was censored by the deep state.
Yes, he was. Do you want to just? There's one story. Sorry,
there
Brian. You feel my pain.
I don't even. It's you. I mean, here's the thing, and I said this before. I joked about this before we went live. I may or may not have had a few drinks at a UGA event last night in Tampa. I may or may not have come home, and I may not have this focus aid from the fine people at Life Aid to help me this morning. But the thing is, my computer has the same hangover today. It has the same Friday hangover, and it's affecting the show. And so I don't know how that happened, but there has been clearly my computer is feeling the same pain on a Friday that I am. So sorry about the technical glitches. I'm seeing on my end, but clearly I'm also causing it from my side. So apologies all around to all our watchers today, because I feel like something is going on, and we're just laughing through it. But sorry, all I was going to say on that, Carl, my quick point to that was you were using a small model to organized data. And that is a dead simple way to use AI that will take very simplistic workflows and just make them even better. So it's like it is an AI enhanced workflow, but it's not some super complex AI go do this thing and be the human for me and take away my job. No, it's just all we're doing is taking messy data and making it cleaner. And AI is great at it. Some AI is great at it. Yeah. So anyway, that's all I was trying to say.
There's one, I don't know if anyone wants to jump in. There was one story that I wanted to shift completely out of to something completely different. I don't know if anyone has anything.
Yes. Do the show. Do the thing, Carl.
Do the thing. Okay. So to shift completely from that, I wanted to go to McDonald's. And they had a story to employ AI at 43,000 locations to speed services. And the one thing that got me thinking, I wanted to know what your thoughts were. I was talking about this, and like, you know how fast food is one of the places where a young teenager can get a little bit of that work experience, right? Like they can just that ability to, hey, what is it like in the workforce, right? Working with a team, having a goal, and so on. The question is, if this stuff is automated, right? Where do the kids get experience in the workforce? Like, would that lead to more on it? Like, that's an interesting thought about that.
This AI automation, I think this story though, Carl, is more about like smart home appliances, but it's in the kitchen. So it's like kitchen parts in McDonald's talking to each other through AI to improve it. So I don't think this one is necessarily like about replacing humans. It's just about using smarter equipment, I think, but that talks to itself. But it's a valid point to it. I just want to put out, and also just want to bring up, don't forget, McDonald's has tried this before and failed with IBM in 2021. So they tried to do a lot of AI implementation and stuff like that. Some places you could do ordering at the window, which was replacing a human, or at least like assisting a human, and they pulled it. So whether this one works or what they're doing, but they are constantly iterating, but they fail like anybody else. I'm sure that costs McDonald's umpteenth amount of millions of dollars or whatever to install and test out that AI system in 2021, only to have to pull it because it was unreliable and actually caused a worse customer experience. But anyway, that's all I just want to say on that really quick.
So if we go back to the first show of this 2-week recap, it was our AI entrepreneurship show. And one of the things that is like great about this time and also super weird about this time is that if you are someone who has an idea, you may be 10, you may be 13, right? This is an interesting time to be able to move that forward. Now, I don't know that the infrastructure is in that, but as someone whose food and housing is paid for, and you have access to schooling in a bunch of different ways, we may see a wave of young entrepreneurs, and that is how they're getting their first work experience. So it may be that you're right, that McDonald's isn't going to be that place, or that kind of food service job isn't going to be that place. And it may be that moving into a tech kind of thing, or understanding, or not even understanding, just having a question about can AI do this thing that I think would be interesting, if it could be automated, or it could be based in a reasoning thing. I think for me, the biggest question in this, and I bet we're going to do a show about it next week, is what they're finding about how you use AI, whether that's improving your cognitive skills, or not just not improving your cognitive skills, but losing some cognition, some cognitive ability, based on how you're using AI. And it's basically, are you actively using it, or are you passively using it, right? Are you engaging it to make yourself more, like have more of a sense of critical thinking, have more of a sense of being able to ask what you want in a way that makes the AI, it makes it easier for the AI to give you what you're asking for, those kinds of things.
With AI is you better be finding yourself correcting the AI from time to time or redirecting the AI from time to time. If you don't have that experience, if you're just accepting blindly what's coming out as a result of our imperfect communications to the AI, then you're possibly falling into the trap that Beth is painting here, which is, you're losing cognitive skill. You're not applying cognitive skill. And it really is a co-intelligence. You have to be thinking and working with it in order to get the best result.
Right. I mean, people in general seem to have willingly given up their ability to do math because there's a calculator in your phone, and there's even a calculator that you can ask. You don't even have to touch numbers, right? You can just ask it, and it will calculate what you're asking for. Same with GPS. So this is a little bit more across the board. Carl.
Isn't, Beth, that same concept being now applied to software engineers and coding? Because I can't remember what study it is that some of the newer coders or grads out of software engineering, they actually don't, because of the heavy use of Cursor and Sonnet, they actually don't know the reason why things are happening. They just happen. And I don't know, like, if it's more of an observation, is that a good thing? Or is that, hey, you have to actually understand what you're coding and why it does it versus it just happens. But like the calculator, I just divide it. I don't know really the whole process of division, but that's how you divide it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Ooh, so much.
I did want to. Can we make one last pivot here? Because I want to call out somebody who's just awesome in our comments, Gareth Hood, who took it upon himself to do something super cool. I'm going to bring it up on my screen right now. So on Monday's show, we had a whole discussion about another guy on LinkedIn who had looked at a VIX commercial and attempted to use $50 worth of AI equipment. That's not his time. You can go back and listen to the show and the whole thing, and then recreate this commercial. And it was very, very good. And there was a whole thing about like, well, is copying the same as like, coming up with it at first. So Gareth was in the comments and was talking to us outside the show and saying, hey, I think I'm going to take a shot at this. I'm curious what I can do with some AI tools. So I have it up on the screen here, and I just want to play it really quick because I think it's super cool and it shows what's possible if you want to do it. So here you go.
I have nothing left but these memories. Hold on to them and you'll always find me. I'll rest my eyes now. But as I rest my eyes now, don't let me go. Hold me in your beating heart. I won't let go. Forever's never long enough. Let me lay my head down in the shadow by your side. Don't let me go. Hold me in your beating heart. So let me.
Bravo to Gareth. That is super cool.
That was nice.
Well done.
We'll include a link to it. Are we? Did we already include a link to it?
Yeah,
no, I'll do it right now because I think people said to wait and see what's messing up.
Was making it halt, and that wasn't in his execution of it. That was just our streaming of it. But
right,
if you look at it.
Yeah, sorry guys.
That's going to provide. You'll see a really beautiful video that mimics the video that the commercial producer copied from a $500,000 video, and it's really remarkably similar.
But does it in a way that aligns with comedic parody so doesn't get quite the same pushback, right? Because they changed the gender of the woman to a man, and that would actually then allow that to be considered a little bit more of a parody, not that gender is not a unique expression of oneself and not parody, paradox. It's whatever. It's not paradoxical.
Hey, Beth,
is the word I'm looking for.
I put the link in the private chat. Would you mind just copying it over real quick for everybody before we wrap up? I want people to be able to go to the actual YouTube video and give Gareth. Please go there. Give Gareth a couple, views and a thumbs up and all that. Like I said, he obviously worked hard on that, and he also, I won't give it away in the comments. He also, or I'm sorry, in the description of the video, Gareth also describes what tools he used. So go watch it without the latency. Sorry, I forgot that my computer was. I should have had somebody else share that today. That's on me. But go watch it without the freezes and stuff because it's awesome.
And join us at 4 p.m.
Anything else,
Eastern,
Beth? Look like you're about to.
And 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, we are doing our second live sci-fi AI show all about robots. So we hope you can join us.
If you have the time, watch Blade Runner before you come to the stream. That'll give you all the basis that you need.
Wow. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
That's it for this week, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Tons of great stuff. Sounds like we have all sorts of fun conversations for next week as well. Have a great week. Don't forget, you can sign up for the newsletter by going to thedailyAIshow.com. That goes out every Sunday. I'll also have a new conundrum video that'll go out tomorrow that I've been queuing up. So lots of content throughout the weekend as well. Come find us. Thanks for the likes and shares and subscribes, and we will see you again on Monday.